Can you think of like the greatest kind of one-on-one fights that you've witnessed in the flesh, like either on the pitch or in training?
Did you play in the London Irish one? London Irish Gloucester, Jim and Pacey?
Yeah, I was in that game.
I was in that game too, mate. I just stood on the halfway line chatting to the penalty when it all kicked off, and then they've both been sent off or whatever, and they start walking off and they kick off again.
And they go again on the walk-off. Yeah, unbelievable. A feaster with Sean Knight and Dave Lewis as well in the corner. Jabs them both. I was just
and then it almost kicked off in the shit the next day on the end of season.
Yes.
It was the last game of the season.
You were there as well. Wait,
that was nutty.
Yeah, oh God.
I was dressed as Banana Man. I was dressed as Banana Man, and as I seen the boys arrive, I just pulled my mask over my face. I just sat there in the corner. I'm Banana Man.
Hello and welcome to RugbyPass Offload with me, Mark Edwards, joined as always by the main man, Max Lahiff, and stepping in for our absent brother, Ryan Wilson, is the Archbishop of Banter himself. It is Freddie Burns. Burnsy, how are you? Before we get into the rugby, we really want to hear all about your ridiculous week away in Dubai. First things first, little birdie told me to ask you about some sun cream stick that you might have purchased.
Yeah, and I actually left it in Dubai as well. But yeah, it's good to be back, boys. I obviously didn't embarrass myself enough the first time around, so I'm back just to see if I can get myself cancelled completely. But yeah, mate, just back. We had the bye week, so it was either lie on my sofa on my own or lie on a sunbed in Dubai. So I chose the latter. No one to put sun cream on my back, so I had this stick that I sort of slapped it all on my back with. I did it in my room. I didn't have the bottle to do it poolside, to be fair. I've still got to keep a little bit of, what do you call it? I've got to try and keep a little bit of sex appeal. I'm a single man, boys, 31. So I thought I can't be doing that and sort of selling myself short straight off the bat. So, yeah, just had a good week. As you can see, tan's looking all right, mate. A little bit red, but you've got to go red to go brown is what I heard. So, yeah, pretty happy.
Wait a sec. So how's this stick work? Explain it. Like, what do you mean? I've never heard of one.
You've not seen? It's on my Instagram, Leaf. Or if you unfollowed me now, we aren't.
No, I haven't unfollowed you.
That's
I
right.
didn't see it.
Just muted me then. Mate, yeah, it's just it's basically like it's like a back scrub pretty much, but it's like a foam end on it. So I just put the suntan lotion on the end there, and then you just sort of stick it around your back so you can get the. Because I back with I ain't getting sunburnt. Like that's. You see those absolute plums by the pool that are bright red. Like I try.
Oh no, fair enough.
I try not to be that guy, but mate, it was class. 28, 29 degrees. Yeah, feel refreshed, ready to kick into the sharp end of the season.
First couple of days, you were on your own though, were you? Was it sort of a bit like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where the hotel staff are like giving you like a magazine to keep you entertained when you're eating on your Jack Jones in the restaurants?
Yeah, I was crying in my bedroom, crying myself to sleep, and they were calling me up, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall. No, so I went out. First night I got there, just chilled out, had a bit of room service, early night. I actually arranged a date when I was out there, boys. I'm going to be honest. Wednesday night, I met a lovely Irish lady called Neve. And she took
shout out.
She took me to Lucky Fish. Yeah, shout out, Neve. How's it going on? She took me out for dinner. So we had dinner. So I had a bit of company Wednesday night. And then I think it was Thursday. I was just chilling at a beach, little beach club, White Beach in Dubai at the Atlantis. Bit of a beach club, just sort of chilling on my phone. And I get someone shove a phone in my face, sort of bigging me up. And I look and it was good old Ben Youngs who was staying there with his family. So I was meeting him the next day anyway, but he come and surprised me. So I had a few beers, and then I got about 10, 11 deep, and I'm like, come on then, let's go see the family. And I'm there lobbing the kids in the pool, like absolutely steaming, teaching them how to do the salmon. But no, mate, it was class. I loved it. I'm quite happy on my own, so enjoying the rested week.
Did you get invited to a random bar by a random person who sort of then bailed on you?
Yeah, so I had a few. Obviously, I put a few things out on Instagram because, like, you know, you're lucky. There's a lot of expats in Dubai, and I thought, you know what, like maybe someone out there will sort of take me under their wing or invite me out for a drink. And I got a direct message from this lad. He must be late 20s, early 30s. And like, I looked at his Instagram. He's like, I think he's married, expecting a kid and stuff. And basically, he messaged me and he was like, it's the end of. I think he works for like a travel company or something. And he's like, oh, we've had a record Q1 or whatever it is, and there's like 90 of us going out tonight. Like, come and have a drink. So I had dinner with Ben Youngs. Got to about 10:30, 11. And he messaged me, was like, oh, we're at this bar, if you fancy it. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go. So I got in a taxi, got there, met the kid in the reception, and he's like, hey, mate, he obviously had a few, and he's like, oh, you ready to turn it up? Like, let's get fucked up and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, all right, mate, sweet. I've gone upstairs. It's gone from 90 people to about 20, right? All blokes. There's just me and him stood at the bar. We did one double spiced rum ginger ale and one shot of Sambuca, right? Next thing you know, the kid's asleep in the corner. Like, absolutely hammered. So I got up to him and said, are you right, mate? He's like, no, I'm fucked, sort of thing. And I was like, mate, I've seen you got a baby on the way and stuff. He's like, yeah, it's coming in 5 weeks, stuff. I said, mate, what are you doing here? I said, get yourself home, get yourself to bed. So the kid just left, and then I'm just stood in this like roof bar thing in Dubai on my own. And I thought, oh, I'll have one and see how it is. So I had one on my own. And then I realised that everyone's dancing. There's just me just stood there. I'm that guy. Do you know what I mean? In the club, just sort of like watching people dancing. And I thought, I got to go home. So I got home, got myself a cookie in bed and had an early night. But yeah, mate, it was, he promised a lot and delivered a little, to be fair.
How did Youngsy's missus take you sort of hijacking the family holiday?
Oh, they loved it, mate. I just, you know, I know Charlotte, Lenny's missus very well. And yeah, Boris, his young lad, was asking after me and stuff like that. So I think it went on. I don't think I overstayed my welcome too much. We had the day by the pool, and then I went out for dinner with them. But they were like, "Oh, we'll go to bed." And I'm like, "Oh, do you fancy a cocktail?" Next thing you know, we're on a balcony. The kids are like falling asleep on the sofa, and I'm there just ordering more drinks, trying to keep as much company as I can for as long as possible. But no, they're, you know, honestly, a great family. The kids are good as gold. So I don't think I overstayed my welcome too much.
As everyone who's overstayed their welcome, maybe, but no.
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you meet Neve through social media, or were you on the dating apps out there?
I did have a little look at Hinge.
Did you? A little dabble.
Just a little. Well, you're on your own by the pool. You just think,
oh, I get it.
I'll have a little look. And to be honest with you, mate, like, switched on girl, lovely, and like just took me out, good company over dinner, mate. It was mate, it's fun. Like, it was just, you know.
Hey, sounds outstanding.
And then on the Saturday, she messaged me and was like, "Oh, I'm at this bar with a load of friends. If you want to come." So I went out Saturday evening, met up with her and a load of her mates, and then some kid decided to nick some food off a delivery driver. Like, literally just claimed that he was the intended recipient of the food. And next day, we just in a taxi driving to this place. It was, you know, well, I don't know why. I just get myself in this predicament, lads.
Sounds perfect.
But a bit of a handbrake though, Max. Don't we think about you're at a bar with like some nice girls having a great time. Randomly, some guy steals some delivery, and then the next thing you know, you're no longer having that fun. What happened next?
No, so we're then in the taxi. Me, Neve, and these two guys. They were Irish lads as well. And then I took over the speaker and had a bit of country music playing, all that, belting it out. Then we just sat in the bar, had a few drinks, and that was it. But yeah, mate, it was class. Like, I loved it. It was pretty chilled, but like, I appreciate the people when they sort of look out for me. And at least Neve and her friends actually like hung around for more than 10 minutes. That kid who invited me to that party, honestly, was like, it was a shambles. But he'll probably watch this. Like, I appreciate him inviting me first and foremost, but he'll be the first to admit you can't talk it up and then, you know, not deliver.
Hey, that's not to pry too much into your dating apps, but be honest, Freddie. How many pro rugby shots have you got on the pics? Is there an England shirt somewhere? You know, what are we looking at?
I think there might be one.
Outstanding.
Yeah, there's one.
Outstanding.
There's one.
It'd be rude not to.
There's one. There's a couple of. There's one like boy.
Oh my gosh, that's out. Was that a calendar shoot? Was it? Oh, you are looking.
Honestly, I am, boys. I got to be honest. I am the fucking ultimate catfish. You know what I mean? I look right in my pictures, and then I rock up, and they go, "Oh, what happened to you, mate? What happened to your face? Is this a rugby pod or a therapy?"
Yeah. Yes, it's the therapy dating, and what to do on holiday pod. Well, boys, it's both of your sort of ex-teammates' birthday. Dave Atwood, I think, who apparently does love to party. What's the sort of best and worst party you've been to with a teammate?
Best and worst party I've been to with a teammate.
Who's sort of had a really good like birthday party, and who's had a really, really shit one?
I've never really been to any real bad ones, eh? They've always been quite wild, like the good birthdays. My 27th, not to blow my own trumpet, but I had a great time with the boys at Bath. That was very loose, really, really special evening. But there's nothing been like that really stands out. Nah. Freddie, you got anything funky?
Nah, not really. Like birthdays is easy, innit? 'Cause you just get hammered. Like I've been to a couple.
You just nice dinner, boozy dinner, next minute, and blind.
Has no one done anything like massive for like a 30th or something like that, or like
nothing ridiculous, no. But Davey Atwood is he always takes those very seriously, like dresses to the nines.
He dressed up, red wine, wouldn't he?
The smug weight champion of the world, yeah.
I got to admit, it'll be one birthday I wouldn't be fussed about going to. I love Dave. I'd love to go just as like a hand grenade. I tell you who does throw a good party was Jamie Roberts when we were at Bath. Good old Doc. He invited me and a few lads to, and our girlfriends. I had a girlfriend at the time, lads. Believe it or not, I was off the apps for a brief moment. And he invited us to like Babington House, and we had like the long room where there was like a fire at the end.
Yeah.
And like you think, and then we went to pay at the end, and he's like, "No, I've got it all. It's all paid for and stuff like that." So it was like that was a very nice touch. So basically, anyone with money, their party's generally pretty good. Like,
so who's like the most generous person like of your team? Like, who's the most generous? Who just shouts everything? You're like, I love this guy so much.
I'd say, to be fair, like Jamie Roberts is a generous bloke and very good. Thing with Doc is I think he's generous, but he's also well connected. So I think he likes to give you stuff, but he gives you stuff that he's been given, if that makes sense. So he's like, don't worry, don't pay for this, I've got this. When actually he's been given it in the first place.
Yeah.
It was on here, he talks about he had that Bentley to run, didn't he, down in south of France, where he was
but he's
hung out with some stars. Yeah.
He's unbelievable. And I had a weekend with him and Elliot Stuke in Ibiza. A few years back, and suddenly it's like, boys, we like woke up. It's like, what are we doing today? And I've got a boat sorted. So we met a bloke called Shaggy, who's an absolute legend, and he just took us around the islands on this boat. And like, it just, do you know what I mean? He's just very well connected. So I'd say if Doc invited me to a party, I'm 100% going.
Yeah, Dylan Armitage was super generous with everything. You couldn't buy a drink around the guy. Who else? Anthony Watson, very, very liberal with the expenditure on a night out. Loves spotting the boys. Toby Falatau as well. One of the hostess with the mostest, like really nice dude. Lovely. He overfed me multiple times after a night out. At Bristol. Ooh. A lot of tight ones here. Jake Woolmore has some pockets. Jake Woolmore.
Lahiff, did you ever end up back at mine after nights out in Bath or not?
I went once, but I never only once, yeah. But you had a nice setup.
Yeah, it was nice, but I used to have I get boys back, right? And one of the lads, an absolute legend, Khan Photo Elite. What an absolute legend, right? But he'd come back and we'd drink, and it gets to the point where it would be, 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm like, right, I've hit a wall, I'm going to bed. And I would turn around to Khan and I'd say, listen, Khan, I'm going to bed, mate. Like, there's a bedroom down there. Like, make yourself comfy. Help yourself to whatever's in the fridge, whatever. He would be the only guy where I'd go to bed. I'd wake up in the morning, my fridge would be empty. He'd literally, you go to something like whatever in the fridge. They might take, a packet of crisps, maybe a little bit of ham or like a bit of bread or something. He literally would clean the whole thing out. Clean. I don't know whether he took home or ate it. But
mate, he'd never stop. He'd never stop. He was unstoppable on the, like when he was gonna go, he went for days and nights on end. You have to go and find him somewhere in the back streets of Bath and kind of reclaim his soul. He was an outstanding campaigner.
Do you remember when he knocked me out? Do you remember when he punched me in training?
Yes, I do.
What happened?
Right, so I'll make a slightly long story short. So basically, we'd lost to someone on the Saturday or whatever on the weekend. We didn't play very well. We rocked up to training on the Monday, and it was a pretty frosty atmosphere. And then we were out training, and for some reason, like a load of the boys that played didn't train on the Monday, but I was training, and I was a bit like not annoyed, but obviously, you know, you want boys to all buy in and still like train. And there was a few bumps and bruises and all that sort of stuff. And Khan was in training, and we started doing this drill in units. And Khan started like, I was training shit, and he started like chirping in from the touchline. And I've just turned around to him and gone, fuck, like I said, Khan, you're not even fucking training, mate. Like, shut up, whatever. And obviously he's then just walked up to me, right, and just gone from in, like, bang, bang. And I'm like a bit in shock, like not throwing any back. And I'm like, whatever. So we have a little like grab. And I found it weird because I always got on really well with Khan. Anyway, it gets sort of split up. Nothing really happens. We carry on training. I'm there shaking. You know, I need to...
No, you said something witty.
No, and then what happened is 5 minutes later, I'm walking over and he's next to Todd Blackadder, the coach. And I've gone up to him and said, Khan, are we all right? And sort of offered my hand. And he's shook my hand, but not really like shook it, if you know what I mean. Sort of like brushed it off. And I don't, boys, to this day, I don't know why I said it. But I turned around to him, I said, are we cool, Khan? And he was like, yeah, whatever, sort of shook my hand. I said, just do me a favour, mate. I said, if you're going to fucking if you're going to punch me, at least knock me out, right? And then he had his hand in his pocket and he just went, bang, and smacked me again. But to be fair, I stayed on my feet, but it just kicked off.
You did.
He had one hand in his pocket and he was just like jabbing me. And I was there like, what is going on? But honestly,
hey, you wore those very well because Khan on the pads was a monster. Like if you watched him do sparring and stuff with Coops, you were like, man's got hands. And I see Burnsy just swallowing him, and I was like, fair play, Burnsy.
Mate, that's what happens when you got rubber skin, mate. You just absorb all the punches, mate. It was like rolling down my body, rolling back up, mate. But the thing is with Khan, right? He was honestly like, what a bloke. He was an absolute legend. And when he drank, he could just drink for...
Yeah, he was a fish, wasn't he?
He was just drink.
Does that stuff get brushed off really easily? Like, I assume it happens probably more than in most other jobs. But, you know, does it... Most of the time, is it everyone cool? Everyone cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess someone gets really towed up. Generally, I see it the next day. Everything's sweet. Mate, there were some big ones though at Bath actually. Matt Banahan and Guy Mercer. That was nasty. Banners would just go like, phew, and like tempers flared. He was gone, and he had some hands. He could scrap, and he was a big man. Who else? Tommy Dunn. So when Tom Dunn was like an academy boy, he was such a nose, like just desperately getting in there, competitive in everything with the like senior guys. And they obviously didn't take kindly to it. And they just try and fill him in at every breakdown. And as he sort of went up the hierarchy over time, he just started just belting guys back. But I don't know. Yeah, the next day everything's sweet.
It's always cleaned up. Like no one, because it's never personal. It's never like it's never done out of like not really liking anyone. Normally, like on you know, it's a game that's played on the edge all the time, and then you've got you throw selection into the mix. You throw, you know, even like I know it's so shit, but like obviously some people can have problems at home or whatever, and it just sort of manifests on the pitch, but it gets blown over pretty quick. I remember at Gloucester actually, they used to if you had a fight, you had to jog around the far post together. So like it was like. So I remember I had a fight with a guy called Nick Runciman once. I was only about 20, right? He absolutely filled me in. Right, Runcie was he was only a scrum half, but he was hard.
The scrum half, yeah. I played him at Welsh. Yeah,
absolute legend, right? But he proper filled me in. And then we jogged, and you spend the first 30 meters just cussing each other. And then you kind of just go, so we just like leave it, and then you shake hands, and then you just carry on jogging around the post till you come back. So that was always quite funny. But
you do the slow dance in the middle, bro, where the boys get together and just slow dance it out. That's always quite funny.
Okay, the funny thing is, though, normally when boys have a fight, they try so hard to show that they're still friends. Like the next day, they'll be like best mates. Oh, do you want a coffee, mate? You want a coffee? Like, hey, like it's got a good with the missus and all that sort of stuff. So it's funny, mate. But even when you see fights kick off, I love it.
You love it, don't you? It's so good.
No, I love it because I watch it. Do you know what I mean? I don't get involved. Oh, it's in like this. Let's get him sound the act. But
I'm the same.
Okay, look, well, perfect time to kind of move on to. I don't know if you saw the clip of Ronan O'Gara squaring up to Christopher Urios before having to kind of sidestep a Will Smith-esque slap to the face from the Bordeaux head coach. It got us thinking. Actually, what can you think of like the greatest kind of one-on-one fights that you've witnessed in the flesh, like either on the pitch or in training?
Did you play in the London Irish one? London Irish Gloucester, Jim and Pacey?
Yeah, I was in that game. I was
in that game too, mate. I just stood on the halfway line chatting to while it all kicked off, and then they've both been sent off or whatever, and they start walking off and they kick off again.
And they go again on the walk-off. Yeah, unbelievable. A feaster with Sean Knight and Dave Lewis as well in the corner. Jabs them both. I was just like, oh my God.
And then it almost kicked off in the ship the next day on the end of season.
Yes.
It was last game of the season.
You were there as well. Mate, that
was
was nutty. Yeah, oh God. We were both
dressed as Banana Man.
Horns.
I was dressed as Banana Man, and as I seen the boys arrive, I just pulled my mask over my face. I just sat there in the corner. I'm Banana Man.
Oh, that was nuts. I'm glad that stayed fairly civil, the one at the ship, because then it could have got weird because alcohol was involved, but everything was fine in the end.
Yeah, there was
Hey guys, come on, run right. You kind of skirted over. So talk us through what happened on the pitch.
Big Jimmy Hamilton and David Pace, the hooker, and the Scottish lock and the English hooker, basically locked horns, started scrapping savagely. Both got carded. On the way off, they're just mouthing off at each other like savagery. And then they get back into it. We've got the water boys and stuff trying to break up. Whole team comes together and there's just a fallout. We've got Afisa Trevoranis on the side jabbing poor Sean Knight, and Dave Lewis puts them both down. And then Dave and Jim are still interlocked. Then Bob Casey and was it Coxey?
Yeah, something happened with them.
Something happened with them.
I don't know what happened. Because at the ship the next day, Bob Casey wanted Coxey. That was the day.
Yeah, so the next day we were all on the piss at the ship for the team, and it was end of season socials. Yeah, it was last game of the season, and it was reignited. But again, it was only handbags, thankfully.
It was one of those. I think the fight kicked off, I reckon, maybe 60 minutes into the game, and you boys were absolutely pumping us. So it was one of those things where it was just like, to be honest, I was just stood there. I was away from it when it kicked off to start with anyway. And I thought, we're like 40 points down. Like, there's no, like, I ain't getting like knocked out. Do you know what I mean? And then and then the fight sort of happened, like the little fight happened. And like you say, as they're walking off, I don't know whether Pacey said something to Jim.
Yeah, something happened.
But the impressive thing is, the water boy comes on to break it up. And he breaks it up. He's in the middle of it. And he doesn't lose his water bottles at all, mate. He keeps them in his hand. Got 2 water bottles. He's there like trying to break them up. Don't lose one.
It's on YouTube.
Right, impressive.
It's a good clip on YouTube. Worth a watch.
When you were in the ship the next day, like you guys didn't know that both teams would be at the ship. I assume it wasn't sort of a setup for like a weird West Side Story final smash type thing. And then you just saw each other and did literally the same protagonist just go, right, we're doing this now.
Jim and Dave were fine. It was just Bob and Cox. Bob Casey and Cox at the time.
I can't remember what, but there was something. Trying to think.
Yeah, so basically Bob, I think he's found something egregious that Coxey did to him on the field, and they didn't sort it out. And then at the ship, he's trying to sort it out, essentially. I think that's what happened.
Right, so let's actually get back to some of the rugby over the weekend, and start with Max. You're still not back from injury, but unfortunately another defeat away for the lads at Northampton. Thoughts on that one?
It was a good game, but it's tough to beat a team like Saints with sort of players off the field for large majorities of the game. Both teams like playing some really good rugby, outstanding. I've enjoyed so many strong performers on both sides. Augustus, wow, he looks fun, and obviously Ludlam on really, really good form at the moment. Yeah, man, it was a tough game, but Franklin's Gardens. Then you get yellow cards here and there. It's mate, they're on form now. They're looking very tasty at the moment, Saints.
I think they could make a late charge for top four.
Yeah.
And that area is pretty congested, but especially if the weather gets a bit nice, because we know that the style that Saints like to play. They like to play that open attacking style, and unbelievable surface as well to play on. Probably one of the best in terms of being a rugby. Like obviously Bristol and other places with like London Irish, because they're football grounds, the pitch is unbelievable. But in terms of a rugby ground, I think Saints is great. But if they can perform like that, there's no reason why they can't make a late charge for that top four. I think they'll become a real dangerous side as the tracks harden up and the weather gets nicer.
You mentioned, Max, friend of the show, Lewis Ludlam, who's sort of running like a man possessed. I think he crashed through about 8 tackles for his try. How impressed have you both been by his resurgence this year?
Well, I don't know if there's been such a resurgence. It's just so tough to get into that England setup. But when he did play in the Six Nations, he was one of the best players for England. It's just because the back row now has had so many like really top performers in the England team. Guys like Curry, Underhill have all had iconic games. Courtney Laws for the White. It's difficult for any other back rows to break into it, but I think Lewis Ludlam is absolute class, all action, great carrier, really good defender, chop tackler, good threat over the ball, and he's athletic enough to go up. And yeah, he's all action, all court back rower for sure.
England's back row depth is ridiculous. I know we're talking Prem, but in terms of the players, like you say, people like to say it's like a resurgence in that, but Ludlam's been class all year. Just, that depth is so strong in that England back row. But I think he looks good, man. And I think, like I say, when Saints, you get Augustus on the front foot, their set piece, as long as it's got parity, the back line they've got, I thought Hutchinson looked like he had a good game. And just those boys could just pull some strings. They play a real attacking brand of rugby. So he needs to set the tone. It's important for like Ludlam and Augustus and these boys to get your Biggers, your Mitchells, your Hutchinsons, that dangerous backline on the front foot. And once they get a bit of momentum, like we know in rugby, it's hard to stop.
Ludlam, clearly just a bit of a legend. Even after the match, he had time to go and play a set, I think, on guitar for the fans in the fan village. What's been your like weirdest or loosest or sort of least orthodox activity where you're mixing with fans?
I had to do so at London Irish one time, we had to do a cooking lesson with some of the fans one time. That was super strange. It's like my second year. It was real weird. We would like cooking, we'd go there once a week into Sunbury. We'd be cooking like the weirdest food you'd never cook, but it was really nice. Like white wine and leek sauce, like real old school traditional dishes. Strange Thai green curry, all these other weird things. It was really, really fascinating. Actually, it did give me some helpful tips on the beginning journeys of my cooking education, but that was bizarre, I thought. But then again, some of the guys I live with literally were eating like a mug of spaghettios and like a bag of Doritos before games. So I went without saying that it was fairly handy for some of the boys.
Now, I would find looking back now, they were great nights, but back in the day when it used to be a testimonial ladies' night, and they just fill a room with, I remember Olivier Zam's ladies' night, they fill a room with, 500-600 women, and you all get given a test. And like you stood there, and I was only 19 at the time, right? I'm shaking like a shitting dog outside this door, right? I've only played a couple of games. I'm in a bow tie, no top. black trousers with like a load of the other, well, pretty much the whole squad. And then suddenly all you hear is, "Oh, yes, it's ladies' night." And the doors open and there's just 600 women absolutely steaming, right? And I tell you now, lads, animals. Animals. Like,
What?
I have never been so, like, I remember once I had to bring the food out. I brought the food out, right? And I leant over to put it on this woman's plate. And the woman I leant over, I don't know where from, has got some chocolate sauce thing out, smeared it on my arm and just licked my arm. I'm 19. Right? I'm 19. I reckon she was about 55. Right?
Wow.
And I just remember being like 19 thinking, what is going on? And then you have a couple of shandies and you're women leading the Macarena. Do you know what I mean?
I never. So was that a normal thing at Gloucester back then? They don't do that anymore, do they?
So we had Olivier Zams. It was big. I'll tell you where it was big. It was big at Leicester, mate. We had Jordan Crane's Ladies' Night. We had someone else.
Max is just on a cooking Thai green curry with like London Irish fans, and you're like on a ladies' night.
And he's a Chippendales. He's a butler in the back.
Max, you have not lived, mate, until you've done a ladies' night. It is just an eye-opener. I remember that Jordan Crane's one. They did a lip sync battle, and no one wanted to do it. So I got up and I did full wig, leather skirt, fishnet tights. I did Freddie Mercury, Break Free. But obviously, it's got that long instrumental in it. So I was like, what do I do here? So I just started stripping.
Where's this Craner's testimonial?
This was Craner's, it was Craner's testimonial. Or it might have been Tatey's, one of them. No, we did it. And then we all went out afterwards, right? And I went out dressed as Freddie Mercury from Break Free, right? And I went to get into the bar in town. They went, "Sorry, mate, you can't get in. You're in trainers." I said, "I've got nothing to do with the fucking fishnet tights and leather skirt." I mean, I can't. But mate, it was. They are weird, especially when you're young. As you get older, you sort of know how to like.
Yeah,
navigate it. Yeah, but when you're young and it's like throwing them in whatever meat.
You're straight into it, isn't it? Yeah.
You are. It's sink or swim, boys.
Yeah, that's different gravy, mate. That sounds outstanding.
Good stories from that.
Feral vibes. How good.
Lots of movement at Bristol, kind of behind the scenes. Are you planning on staying in the West Country, or was it past as new for you?
Well, I hope so. I hope I'm still here. I think I am. Yeah. But yeah, there is a lot of chopping and changing. But yeah, I'm bolted on. So.
What about you?
Oh yeah, no, I still got another year on my contract, so I'm sticking around. I feel like the club's in a good place at the minute. Obviously, Max will know as well just how quick that can change, though. Do you know what I mean? You can, like, honestly, yeah. But in rugby, it changes just like that, either way. Like, if you lose that, you know, we're having a good season in terms of, obviously, you know, we're top of the league and stuff like that. But we've got lucky in quite a few games, so we're under no illusion how much improvement we need to make in the remainder of the season. But, you know, in rugby, well, in any sport, it's so fickle, isn't it? The margins are so fine, like in games, and whether you win or lose. And we've just been, you know, we've been fortunate this year that in some of those sort of small, well, I said big moments, but, you know, at the end of the game, we've managed to just fall on the right side of the result. So yeah, still about, mate. Still got another year. You know, I love playing for Tigers, mate. I've said this to a few of the boys. When you played at a few clubs, you kind of realise how special the place is. You know, we had the other week, it was Six Nations game. Can't remember if it was when we played Irish or Gloucester, but it was a Six Nations game. We kicked off at 3:00 on a Saturday, and we still had, I think it was 20,000, 21,000, which is just, you know, and you just, it's almost like you just don't get that anywhere else, really. Like, you know, not too many places. It's just an amazing club to be a part of, and I'm around for another year, and then you just don't know after that. I'll be 33 at the end of this contract, and you just, you know, you never know now. Contracts are, you know, you get to that age where you don't know how many more years you got going.
With the new salary cap as well, exactly. It's all very fruity, but Welford Road away is like the game, isn't it? In terms of the Prem, like that's your favorite one to go to. It's a ridiculous hive of atmosphere. It is so much fun. Crowd's so hostile, but nice as well. Like, you know, when you're stepping down through the through the crowd onto the field and stuff. Oh, it's just a special place. It's a special place, and you're always up against it there. Like, you're always looking at absolute savages on the other team. Man, it's a class arena to play rugby at.
It's great as well because of the atmosphere and what the fans bring and the stadium and all that sort of stuff. You get the best of the opposition when they rock up. You never get you never get an easy ride at home. It is tough, and that's because the fans, and I think everyone, even in the last few years when Leicester haven't been the powerhouse that they were before, fans or players still, to get a scalp at Welford Road is a huge scalp, whether Leicester are top of the league or bottom of it. And I think that's testament to what the crowd create and how difficult a place it is to go and play.
Agreed.
Have you got any sort of, this is going to sound really harsh, but like, do you know any of stories about people being cut in a bad way?
I think it happens quite a lot. Like, honestly, you'd be surprised. The main thing I've learned in my career is, it's never personal. At Leicester last time, I got sacked over a lemon and herb chicken and a spicy rice. Do you know what I mean? I still had a year on the contract. I still had a year and a half of the contract. And Simon Cohen, who was CEO of Leicester at the time, said, can I meet you for a Nandos? I thought, Nandos on the CEO, don't mind if I do. Right, I'll have a spicy rice, lemon and herb chicken, have one mouthful. Fred, we want to get rid of you. What? You know what I mean? I said, mate, I think I need to go get a refuel. And there's me stood by the fizzy drink machine, just wailing like like getting sacked.
Oh, so silly.
But it's one of those things, right? And I've spoken about it. It was a few years ago now, and I've spoken about it in depth on a lot of podcasts and stuff. But like, at the time, it hurts. But you look back, and this is a business now. It's no longer, fans talk about a player leaves and they go, where's the loyalty and all this sort of stuff. But that's gone from the game now. And I think one thing has to change in rugby is you get a lot of clubs and people in the game preach about family clubs and loyalty and respect and all this. But at the end of the day, it's business. The minute you ain't good enough or don't fit in their plans, they're going to get rid of you. So the same as a player, if there's a better opportunity in whatever fuels you, whether that's money, whether that's being close to family, whether that's, an opportunity to play more, you just all have to be selfish because it's dog eat dog out there. Yeah,
completely agree. Like, as the same with me at Bath, I didn't know until it was too late. You got to ask those questions, do you know what I mean? And then I never asked them. And then next minute I'm out with cap in hand looking for a club. It's just like that. It's just about how your stock is, what's the market saying, like clubs needed players in certain positions. But yeah, like Fred says, it's completely dog eat dog. It is a performance-based business 100%.
So your agent's kind of shopping you around all of the time in that respect. If you take that in the back of your mind, are they always keeping your options open?
I asked mine to. I have a real good relationship with my agent, but when I go into a year now when my contract is ending, I'm like, mate, put it out there because you've got to, because the problem is now is recruitment happens. All right, you can't talk to a players before January the 1st or whatever it is. I'm not sure if that's still a thing or not, but that used to be the thing. But it doesn't stop a club approaching an agent about potentially, like, if you're keen or not. And a lot of clubs do their recruitment and they're re-signing in November, December. So, you get told end of January, February, sometimes it's too late. So you need to front foot it. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going anywhere, but I always say you've got to have options, because if you get told you're not going to stay and it's April and there's no clubs out there, without sounding too harsh, it's your own fault, because you should be ahead of it and know the game. In an ideal world, you'd like to think that a coach will tell you in October, November, listen, you're not in our plans next season, start looking for another club. But unfortunately now, that's not the way it goes, because until they get the target that they want over the line, they're going to try and keep you just as an insurance policy. And, that's That's not me complaining or getting my violin out or saying we get it up.
Yeah,
it's just the way
that's
it
just
is.
how it is. Yeah, agreed completely.
Do you have to interview?
Not really. It's sort of like you might have a meeting here and there. That's about it. They're basically just making, especially guys like Fred who've been around the league for a while. They will have a good understanding of the personality and the character. So they just want to meet and greet the head coach. The head coach usually wants to meet and greet you and see if you're a good bloke, and that's about it, man.
You tend to have like a chat, like you know now Zoom or whatever. Like you used to go in. I remember when I was at Gloucester, I met Richard Cockerell and Simon Cohen in like some boardroom in a hotel in London, and they put like sandwiches out and stuff like this. And I was like, I didn't know, you know, and it's not a test, but I'd been up on the train, I was starving, and there was a lovely little blooming egg mayo sandwich in front of me and a few little blooming samosas in that, and I'm thinking, cool, I want a couple of them. So anyway, that's going off track, but I had a chat with them, and then they were like, oh, come up and have a look around. So I went up and had a look around, and I come up with my dad, and I got invited to meet Jordan Murphy at his house. So I met Jordan Murphy at his house. He was backs coach at the time, and there was like 5 or 6 of the coaches all there on a table, CEO, stuff like that. He lived across the road from this lovely Indian, and they all ordered Indian. And next time, me and my dad sat there having an Indian with like all the hierarchy at Leicester. Do you know what I mean? But like they know what they're doing. They make you feel a bit special. But you sort of, I'm driving home, and my dad's going, I don't believe it. I just had an Indian with Richard Cockerell. Do you know what I mean? He literally can't believe it. He don't know what's going on. I went with my agent, but you know, I'm not sure if it's quite like that anymore because of COVID. But they, if they want you, they'll make it clear, and they'll make you feel a bit special. They'll butter you up nicely to get you to come.
Yeah, for sure. They'll put the bells and whistles out, won't they? 100%.
Have you got? Is there anyone where you've come really, really close and it hasn't happened, but where you're literally in your mind, you're like, I'm actually there, I'm leaving, and then for whatever reason, it's just not got over the line?
Clermont.
I mean, you're actually there, though.
Where you're actually there, and then they're like, no, you cannot play here. I actually did. When I left London Irish, I remember meeting Richard Cockerell and Matt O'Connor at a coffee shop in town in Leicester. I can't remember. I think it was like just a nice Costa or something. But yeah, I was very close to going there before I ended up in Australia. But yeah, agreed. They're both very impressive guys. So when you meet them and you're a young player, and you've like, you know so much about like Leicester at this point, being like the back-to-back champions and all that. Yeah, you're just like, my God, this is mad. And like Cockerell and Matt O'Connor are both quite articulate guys, both quite witty. So again, it's like, and you know they've been around the block a few times. So yeah, it's all very impressive, man.
When I left Gloucester and signed for Leicester back in 2013, 14, something like that, I was on the fence till the moment I signed on the dotted line. I literally was like, I would wake up being like, this is Leicester Tigers, I have to go. I can't say no to this opportunity. And then the other side was, and then, you know, I'd be having my lunch and it would hit me and I'd be like, oh, but I've, you know, Gloucester, the team that have given me my chance, you know, I'm comfortable here. I love playing for the club. And I generally was like to and fro, and my older brother Jack called me up and just went, mate, like, make the fucking decision and just sign it. So I literally woke up one morning, was like, right, I've got to go. I can't, it was too good an opportunity to miss. So I called my agent, was like, mate, I want to sign the contracts today. And that was it then. He sent him over, got him signed, and then it was just done. But like, I think you can always argue to stay, to go. And I've always been one of them, mate. It's always been what's going to make me the best player. And, you know, I felt when I left Gloucester, you know, we were sort of, I think we were 10th in the league, something like that, a bit inconsistent. And Leicester had never not been in the top 4. So I was like, I want to play in semi-finals and finals and have a crack. So I went there and tried to have a go. But yeah, it is hard, mate. Like, you are Minara as a player so much. It's, you know, you do have a feeling of loyalty, but you just got to be selfish and do what's right for you, because, you know, like I said earlier, the club will do whatever's right for them as well. So it's tough. So I look at the youngsters now, it's so tough for some of them, you know, especially like Welsh lads who kind of get that thing where they want to play for Wales. Do they go back to Wales and play? But then that's, you know, you look at the Welsh regions at the minute and like, you know, they sort of struggle in Europe. Do you know what I mean? It's just such a difficult position for some youngsters to go in.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm glad I've gone through it and come out the other side now because I look at things through a bit of a different light.
Also, like, I find that when you're a young player like that, all you've known is that club as well. So like you've got these really intimate relationships with coaches, other players, and you're sort of, I'm not going to say you're confused. Well, you are sort of confused because at this point you're still naive to the sort of professionalism and rigors of rugby. So you sort of think it's still like a fraternity of sorts, but really it's still about production and what you're like as a professional rugby player.
Lahiff, quick question, right? Was you, because you went to Australia young, how old were you when you went down?
I was 23, yeah.
Like, do you reckon that changed? Because like for me, I obviously went to Japan at 30 and actually stepping away from the Premiership and just experiencing something completely different, like completely changed my outlook on Premiership rugby as a whole. Do you reckon it helped you out when you were younger doing that at a young age?
Yeah, I did, but I found it quite difficult. What I realized at the time was I was sort of not ready for that, such a big leap, such a big change, and I sort of struggled with the move and stuff. But yeah, I did learn a lot about myself, and it was a very, very helpful lesson, just as a man in general. But yeah, I completely agree with you. You don't realize how good you have it sometimes until something like that, some like significant adversity comes across. But yeah, going to Australia and getting those perspectives and stuff on rugby, I completely agree. It just gives you all sorts of different perspectives.
Boys, you two of you should like join together and become like a young players agency trusted advisors, where you give them the real information. No, you're saying that though. Honestly, like Burnsy's like, I wish I'd been, I'd known some of these things perhaps when I was younger, or where you know, young players who've got these big dreams and then they maybe stay too long at a club or are given the wrong information by, but potentially some agents might only want to just make sure that the money's the right thing rather than actually what the opportunity is. You guys got to delve into that.
I got to admit,
fountain of knowledge.
I got to admit, I absolutely love my role at Leicester because like I'm there, like I play an important part in the team and all that, and I feel valued from a rugby point of view. But obviously, Fordy's been in good form and playing, but I feel like I'm in this sort of middle ground where obviously it helps kind of being, I guess it kind of helps being like single in that because I have time in the day. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't have, some of the older boys have families, they've got to go and do school runs and all this sort of stuff. Whereas like I feel like I fit in this real nice sort of groove of being able to talk to the youngsters and sort of offer a bit of advice. But obviously I'm still taking advice myself from, I learn from Fordy every day, Bryce Hegarty, Ben Youngs, Dan Cole, all these like real, Richard Wigglesworth still playing at 38. But I love my role at the minute of being able to like play that sort of mediator between sort of young and old and just try and help them out, just try and have chats with them a little bit. And that's all it is because they don't know, do they? Like you just trusted in.
I think we have similar roles in our respective clubs.
Yeah,
because everyone thinks I'm sort of younger than I am as well, and I end up
bring it together, boys. Here we go. What are we calling it?
Without being like saying names. Yeah, you do see clubs absolutely lock in some very young, talented guys for years on terrible money when they're superb rugby players, and that there should be a renegotiation happening and stuff, but that's just the way of the game, isn't it? But then again, it goes the other way, doesn't it? Like some guys get paid buckets and they're injured for most of the time or aren't playing well. So it's just the way the apple falls, I suppose.
It's such a tricky thing. And I always say a little bit of a name drop. So when I was deciding whether to leave Gloucester and go to Leicester, I was sat in my flat in Leicester and I'm in Cheltenham. And my phone goes, and it's like a foreign number. And I pick the phone up, I'm like, hello? And this guy's like, hi, can I speak to Freddie, please? And I'm like, I'm speaking. He's like, all right, Freddie, it's Johnny Wilkinson. All right? And basically, my agent had spoke to his agent and just said, look, and obviously at the time I was in the England squad and stuff like that. But I spoke to Johnny on the phone maybe for an hour and a quarter, hour and a half. And the tricky thing to do is you could never turn around to a young player and go, you should leave and do this. You should stay and do that. You just have to talk about like your own experience. And that was one thing I took from that chat with Johnny was like, he, at not one point did he say like what I should do. He just spoke about his experience and what he's discovered and all that sort of stuff. And it really just opened my mind up. And I feel like, you know, these kids have got such big decisions to make that, you know, they're not always going to get it right, or they might go somewhere and it takes them a year or two to settle in. But like that conversation I had with Johnny was definitely like, I was like, that's how I'd like to advise people when I get a bit older, is not say, I left Gloucester, you should leave Gloucester, or I left at 23 in this. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so hard, but it was amazing from him to take the time. And now I just feel like I'm at that age where I can take a bit of time and chat to, especially the young lads at Leicester that we got, and hopefully advise them a little bit.
Let's just move things on a little bit. I don't know if you saw this, Ronan O'Gara, of all people, announcing he'd love to be considered to be the next England manager. And obviously with the RFU supposedly starting that recruitment process to find Eddie Jones' replacement. If you were in charge of the RFU, Freddie Burns, who would you pick?
The thing is, here's the thing with it, right, is you've got to go careful. You've got to work out who. There's so much media and stuff to deal with the circus with being England, you know, head coach, a manager, whatever it is. So it's whether they go for like a DOR figure who's just allowed to just do the media side of things, talk about that, and then you have a head coach underneath who actually does the hands-on coaching. Does that make sense? It's like it's quite a balancing act to do both. So like, I love the way Ronan O'Gara talks about the game. To watch, whenever I hear on an interview, I think it's class. But I'll be honest, I don't really know. I'd love to see Razzie in it, mate. Just for the, you know, I genuinely love the bloke. I've never met him, just through social media and how he is. I absolutely love the bloke. He sounds like an absolute legend. But yeah, from a serious point of view, I'll be honest with you, boys, I don't really know. I haven't given it much thought. I probably should have more of an opinion being on a rugby podcast, but yeah, Ronan O'Gara could be a great coach, you know, as a head coach, but I think you'd want someone above him to deal with the media side of things and all that, so he can just get on with coaching. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Max.
No, I like the idea of Rog in there. I think he'd be outstanding. I know what you mean, but with the acronyms KBA, keep the ball alive. La Rochelle plays some good code as well. And he's got access to some really, really talented individuals that in the England setup. So, and I think a lot of those players in the England like lineup at the moment would suit that style of play, like that sort of wide, like momentum sort of rugby. But yeah, do you want someone domestically from inside? Like, I think a lot of people have been sort of praying for Rob Baxter to take the role, haven't they, for a while? There's been that talk. And I think Exeter Chiefs' success in the last few years has been testament to that. But then there's guys like Mark McCall as well. Could he do it? Like, I don't know. But I do like the idea of Rog. I think he's very contemporary, and he could, like, he's sort of plays some sexy rugby. It'd be pretty good. It'd be good. But yeah, I sort of agree with you. You want someone nowadays. There's so much around like the social media aspect of being DOR. Like, you're right, Razzie, Eddie Jones, they all sort of have their own brand off field in terms of what they bring to the press and stuff. So you need someone above him. So you want the DOR, and then who's actually the head coach, and the coaches below that. Like, Eddie Jones changes up the coach, the backroom stuff so often in that England setup. So
I think as well, though, there's that thing as well with Eddie Jones is like, don't get me wrong, I know he's got his critics, and you can look at England's performances in the Six Nations and stuff like that, just gone. But like, you also have to be careful. I know he's leaving anyway. It's not like he's been sacked or anything, but like, he's unbelievable what he does in terms of to be able to handle the press the way he does. And let's not forget, right, England were in the final of the last World Cup. Like, people like are very quick to, like, you know, criticise change. There ain't many like Eddie Jones out there. There's a reason why he's been at the top of the coaching game for 20 odd years now. And that's because he's unbelievable at what he does. So, of course, you know, he's off and England are going to need to change. But it's going to be some big old shoes to fill because, you know, the way he gets that team going and the way he handles the media and all that sort of stuff. You know, there's not many Eddie Joneses around. So you need someone to come in who's got a big personality, which is why, like I said, if O'Gara was to come in and be, say, given the reins as head coach, I believe they need to bring in maybe a Rob Bax or something like that above O'Gara to sort of handle the media side of it and all that kind of thing.
Brilliant stuff. Well, speaking of sort of growing the game, but here in England, let's have a quick line on Ealing Trailfinders, who've won one of the most competitive championship leagues of all time, destroying Richmond, but currently they're not going to be promoted to the Prem next season due to not meeting minimum criteria grounds. Can we firstly try and explain to everyone what that sort of means in a practical sense?
So essentially, if you want to be in the Prem, you need a stadium with the capacity of 10,001, which is strange. I don't know if that's a typo, but 10,001 capacity stadiums. And I was part of a team that was promoted, I can't remember what year it was, with London Welsh, and they had to obviously relocate from Old Deer Park to make it into the Prem. They had to take over join in partnership with Oxford Football Club's ground, what was it called, Fred?
Oh.
The Kazam Stadium?
Kazam Stadium,
yeah. Yeah, the Kazam. And that was a soulless vessel, a husk. But anyway, yeah, that's essentially what you need. And what's my view on them not being promoted? Yeah, no, I think relegation and promotion is, imagine how spicy, I know we're down there, but imagine how spicy relegation and promotion would have been this year. It would have been nuts. It would have been crazy. Like Bath going down. That's really unheard of, wouldn't it?
But you saw it with Leicester a couple of years ago. You know, suddenly a team like Leicester could be in.
Yeah, and exactly.
Like Northampton Saints in their time, they got relegated and then they came back and ended up winning the Premiership. Quins did the same, got relegated, ended up coming back. I think for me with the whole, I'm quite opinionated on this, but for me, the problem with rugby at the minute in the UK, and I'm not saying it's a big problem and I'm not the bearer of every solution, but they need to make the championship more competitive. So I have this theory, right? And I generally, I don't mean to sound disrespectful to anyone who plays in the championship.
Yeah.
But for me, it's almost like, it's almost like the third tier of English rugby, because if you have a good year in the championship as a player, Premiership clubs pick you up, but then you sit on the bench, like you sit holding a pad for, you know, squads in the Premiership are 45 strong, which they kind of need to be. But then 25 of those blokes end up playing no rugby all year. And those 25 blokes could be down in the Championship, making it a much more competitive league. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know the answer of how to...
Yeah, I was going to ask you what would be your solution. But you're completely right. There's so many guys that come from Championship clubs and they just get zero love. You're so right. That's a great point. Yeah, so you get these Championship guys that come join the clubs, but all they do is end up holding pads and playing a bit of A-League or playing against the Navy on a midweeker. It's just like, what's the point when they're actually really good rugby players? And a lot of the time, the disparity between the Prem and the Championship is completely exaggerated by that, because there are enough good rugby players to... Yeah.
But there's also that problem. There's also that problem you had for a few years. Exeter bucked the trend a little bit, but you know, I think there was that year London Welsh did come up, and I don't think they won a game.
Yeah, they got. Yeah, you're completely right.
So you kind of go in as well, right? I would love to see Ealing. They've won the Championship. They deserve their shot in the Premiership, and there's no saying that they can't do an Exeter and stay up and keep going. But the history shows that a lot of the times, the team that gets promoted goes straight back down, and the team that gets relegated comes straight back up. So the team that gets relegated generally wins every game in the Championship, or the majority of them come straight back up. and the team that gets promoted to the Premiership genuinely loses, you know, the majority of their games and goes back down. And you've got to give these teams, I've got to have what I say, but you have to give these teams the opportunity to come up and have their, like, Ealing Trailfinders have won a very competitive league, and they deserve their season in the sun of playing in the Premiership and competing against the best in the country. Unfortunately, they need to bridge the gap or the gulf in quality between the Championship and the Premiership to just try and make it a more competitive, to make the Championship teams more competitive if they do get promoted.
How difficult? I can't imagine for Ealing it would be that difficult for them to find a stadium in London where they could play with that. Are they actually pushing to go up? I don't even know. Yeah, but a lot of the times, some of these teams don't even want to go up because of what Fred just said, the financial implications, and you end up just going back down. It's true though, because what happens is the top players in the champ are just going to get cherry picked by the clubs, and they end up not playing, and that's the exaggerated sort of gap between the two leagues.
There's so many players wasted, mate.
Yeah, I agree completely. And also that promotion relegation creates so much theatricality, especially because it's so like aggressive, and it creates so much more conviction in that bottom half of the table. It makes it so much more fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, it's probably very, very stressful, but with that comes the elation as well. I'm 100% for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob Baxter actually even came out and was just like, he slammed the whole idea that Ealing were being cut out on these grounds, and actually quoted saying, "Have you been to the Bath dressing rooms?"
So true.
Thoughts?
Well, the Bath dressing rooms are famously cramped, especially the away dressing room. It's outrageous. And it gets waterlogged sometimes, like the shower blocks, and then you've got like a whole flood in the whole place. It's quite fun. It's just part of the tourist brochure of the Prem, isn't it? Where else is a bit fruity?
I think the issue is, if I was Ealing, right, and I'm not poking, I'm not trying to stoke anything with other clubs, but like, you go to stadiums, and a stadium can have 15,000, but you go there and they've got 5, 4, and it's like, and then you're turning around to Ealing and saying, like, I would rather play in a 4,000 seater stadium that's packed than a 32,000 seater stadium with 5,000 in it. So it kind of, that's where I think Ealing will feel, you know, most aggrieved, is they'll look at attendances in the league, and I don't think there'll be certain clubs that aren't averaging 10,000 every week. So it's kind of like a non-starter. But
yeah, completely agree as well. That's such a good point. Like, how often do those get filled out? It's so true. Unless they're like a huge club in terms of like local support. You go to so many stadiums which are empty.
Yeah.
With you.
Sadly, that is all the time we've got left for this week. Huge thank you to Max and to Freddie, legendary, stepping in as always. Also, do remember to join our new Discord, where you can talk rugby and join our growing community there. But from all of us here at RugbyPass Offload, we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.